I was wrong about everything. I was about to sign over my construction company to my son, 32 years of sweat and concrete reduced to signatures on paper. My daughter had spent the morning making sure I was comfortable. Bringing me herbal tea, she said, would help with my blood pressure. Then James, my site foreman of 15 years, bumped into me in the hallway outside my office and whispered 4 words that changed everything. "Don't drink that tea. Let me back up." My name is Robert Thornton, and at 63 years old, I thought I understood how the world worked. I built Thornton Construction from nothing in 1992, starting with a used truck and a toolbox my father left me. We went from small residential jobs in Edmonton to major commercial projects across Alberta. The company was my legacy, my proof that a kid from a working-class family could build something that mattered. My son Derek seemed like the natural choice to take over. He'd worked in the business since he was 16, started in the warehouses, learned every aspect of construction management, got his engineering degree, made smart decisions, impressed our clients. He married Rachel 8 years ago, a woman who seemed charming at first. She came from money. Her father owned investment properties in Vancouver. I thought she'd bring sophistication to our family operation, but somewhere in the last 3 years, things shifted. Derek became distant. Rachel started asking pointed questions about retirement, about succession plans, about when I planned to step back and enjoy life. She'd smile when she said it, always with that practiced sweetness, but there was something calculating in her eyes. I told myself I was being paranoid. She was just planning ahead, being practical. The fatigue started about 4 months ago. I'd come home exhausted, which I blamed on age and long hours at the sites. Then came the stomach issues, the headaches that wouldn't quit, the confusion during meetings where I'd forget numbers I'd known by heart for decades. My doctor ran tests but found nothing definitive. Stress, he said, maybe early signs of cognitive decline. He suggested I consider retirement. Rachel jumped on that diagnosis like it was a gift. "Robert, you've worked so hard," she'd say, bringing me tea in the mornings before I headed to the office. "You deserve rest. Let Derek handle things. We'll take good care of the company, I promise." Derek would nod along, but he wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. I scheduled the official transfer for a Friday afternoon in late September. My lawyer would come to the office at 2 p.m. with the paperwork. I'd sign over controlling interest to Derek, keeping a minority stake and a consultant role. It felt right in my head, even if my gut kept screaming that something was off. That Friday morning, Rachel showed up at my house unexpected. I lived alone since my wife Patricia passed 4 years ago. Cancer took her fast. The house felt too big most days, but I couldn't bring myself to sell it. Too many memories built into the walls. "I thought you might need some calming tea before the big meeting," Rachel said, carrying a travel mug with the Thornton Construction logo on it. "It's a special blend. Chamomile, valerian root, some other herbs. My naturopath recommended it." She'd been bringing me tea for weeks now, always with different excuses. For your blood pressure, for your sleep, for mental clarity. I'd drink it because refusing seemed rude, seemed ungrateful. Each time, I'd feel worse afterward, but I blamed my declining health. I took the mug from her, felt the warmth through the metal. She smiled, that practiced smile. "Drink it before you leave. You'll feel so much more relaxed during the signing." "Thank you, Rachel. That's thoughtful. Of course, we're family." She touched my shoulder, and something about the gesture felt rehearsed, like she was performing concern rather than feeling it. After she left, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the mug. The office was only 20 minutes away, but I had time. I was about to take the first sip when I heard footsteps on my front porch. Heavy work boots. I recognized that walk. James Chen knocked and entered without waiting for an answer. He'd been doing that for 15 years, ever since I hired him as a site supervisor, and discovered he was the best foreman I'd ever worked with. Former Army engineer, immigrant from Hong Kong, built like he could still carry steel beams on his back. At 55, he ran our job sites with military precision. "Robert, we need to talk about the..." He stopped mid-sentence, staring at the mug in my hand. His face went pale. "Is that from Rachel?" "Yes, she just dropped it off." "Why?" James moved fast, crossing my kitchen in 3 strides. He grabbed the mug right out of my hands, nearly spilling it. "Don't drink this. Please, trust me. Don't drink anything she gives you." I stood up, confused and suddenly alert. "James, what the hell?" "Your Ring doorbell. The one facing the side yard. Check the footage from 3 weeks ago, September 2nd, around 6 p.m. I've been debating for days whether to say something. I thought maybe I was seeing things wrong. Maybe I was paranoid. But I can't stay quiet anymore. I owe you too much. My hands shook as I pulled up the Ring app on my phone. James gave me the exact timestamp. I found the footage, pressed play. The video showed Rachel's car parked in my side driveway. She was pulling something from her trunk, a large bag from a garden supply store. But she didn't go to the garden. She went to my garage, looking around first to make sure no one was watching. She didn't know about the new doorbell camera I'd installed after a string of package thefts in the neighborhood. I watched her enter my garage. I never locked it, stupid in hindsight, and stay there for almost 8 minutes. When she emerged, the bag looked significantly lighter. She drove away quickly. What was in that bag? I asked, though part of me already knew. I worked up the courage last week to check your garage, James said. I found a half-empty 50-pound bag of rat poison tucked behind your lawnmower, brodifacoum-based. It causes internal bleeding, organ failure. The symptoms can take months to show up fully because it accumulates in your system. Fatigue, confusion, nausea, bruising you might not even notice at first. The mug slipped from my hand, hitting the floor. Hot tea splashed across the tile. Neither of us moved to clean it. How long have you suspected? 6 weeks. I noticed how sick you looked, how you'd stumble on the job sites. You're the toughest person I know, Robert. You worked through a broken arm, through pneumonia, through grief that would have destroyed other men. So when you started looking frail, I knew something was seriously wrong. Then I saw Rachel bringing you drinks constantly, always insisting you finish them, always watching to make sure you drank every drop. I sat back down, feeling dizzy. Why didn't you tell me sooner? James looked away, and I saw shame in his expression. Because I was scared. Because accusing your boss's daughter-in-law of murder sounds insane. Because I'm an immigrant on a work visa, and if I'm wrong, if I make waves, I could lose everything. My job, my status, my ability to bring my mother here from Hong Kong like I've been planning. I almost convinced myself I was imagining things. What changed? My daughter, Emily's studying nursing at the University of Alberta. I told her about your symptoms. Didn't mention my suspicions. She said it sounded like anticoagulant poisoning. That's when I knew I couldn't stay quiet, even if it costs me everything. You paid for Emily's tuition last year when I couldn't afford it. You said it was a bonus, but I knew the truth. You've treated me like family for 15 years. I can't let someone murder you while I watch. I looked at the tea spreading across my kitchen floor and felt something click into place. The special teas, the insistence that I drink them, Rachel's careful attention to my health declining, Derek's sudden distance, his inability to look me in the eye. Derek knows, I said. It wasn't a question. I don't want to believe that. But Robert, he's been asking me about company valuations, about what happens to ownership if something happens to you. He asked if your will was updated. These aren't normal questions from a man who thinks his father has decades left. I felt something break inside my chest, and it had nothing to do with poison. My son, the boy I raised, taught to ride a bike, walked through his first day of school. The young man who cried at his mother's funeral and told me he'd make me proud. That person was planning to kill me. We need to call the police, James said. No, not yet. My mind was racing now, moving through possibilities. If we call the police now, they'll deny everything. Claim the rat poison was for actual rats. Say the tea is harmless. Their lawyer, Rachel's father, has good lawyers, will tear apart circumstantial evidence. I need proof. Real, undeniable proof. What are you thinking? The signing is in 4 hours. I need to know how deep this goes. I need to see if my son is a murderer or just a fool who married one. That's dangerous, Robert. I'm already being poisoned, James. What more can they do? Over the next 3 hours, James and I formed a plan. He took the tea Rachel brought and the rat poison from my garage to a private lab we sometimes used for material testing, rush analysis. They owed me favors. We installed 2 hidden cameras in my office, one behind books on the shelf, one in the smoke detector. We weren't telling the police yet, but we'd document everything. I called my lawyer, Thomas Brennan, and told him to be prepared for possible changes to the transfer agreement. He started to ask questions, but I cut him off. Just be ready. And Tom, bring a witness. Someone credible. At 1:45 p.m., I sat in my office trying not to vomit from nerves and probably from months of accumulated poison in my system. Derek and Rachel arrived together. She carried another travel mug. "Thought you might want something to calm your nerves," she said, setting it on my desk. "Big day." I looked at that mug and felt rage so pure it cleared my head. "That's thoughtful, Rachel. Let me save it for after. Need to keep a clear head for the paperwork." Something flickered across her face. Annoyance? Concern? It vanished behind her smile. "Of course. Whatever you think is best." Derek sat across from me, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be. Then he spoke. "Dad, I know this is emotional, but it's the right thing. You've earned your rest." "Have I?" I kept my voice neutral. "Tell me something, son. What made you decide you were ready to run the company?" "I've been preparing for years. You know that." "That's not what I asked. When did you decide? Was it when your mother died? Was it when I started getting sick? Or was it when Rachel suggested it?" Rachel's smile tightened. "Robert, that's not fair. We've all been worried about your health." "My health?" "Right." I picked up the tea mug, watched them both tense slightly. "This tea, Rachel, what's in it exactly?" "I told you. Chamomile, valerian, and what else?" I held her gaze. "What else is in the tea you've been bringing me for months?" The room went very quiet. Derek looked between us, confused, or acting confused. I couldn't tell anymore. "I don't appreciate what you're implying," Rachel said, and the sweetness was gone from her voice now. Something colder replaced it. "Dad, what's going on?" Derek asked. I set the mug down carefully, far from my reach. "James found something interesting in my garage 3 weeks ago. A bag of rat poison. I don't have rats. Never needed poison before. The security camera footage shows someone putting it there. Want to guess who?" Rachel's face went completely blank. That scared me more than anger would have. "That's absurd." "Derek, your father is obviously not well. The paranoia, the confusion, these are symptoms of dementia. We should postpone the signing. He needs a medical evaluation." "I'm sitting right here," I said, "and I'm not demented. Poisoned, maybe, but not demented." Derek stood up. "Dad, this is crazy. Rachel wouldn't, she loves you. We both do." "Then drink the tea," I said. "If it's harmless, if I'm just a paranoid old man, drink it. Prove me wrong." Nobody moved. The silence stretched out, broken only by the office AC humming. Rachel recovered first, laughing lightly. "This is ridiculous. I'm not drinking tea to prove some insane point. Derek, let's go. We can come back when your father is thinking clearly." "Sit down," I said, and 20 years of commanding construction sites put weight behind the words. "Both of you, sit down and wait for my lawyer. We're going to have a very different conversation than the one you expected." Thomas arrived 10 minutes later with a woman I recognized, Judge Sarah Morrison, recently retired, a friend of his. She could serve as a legal witness. More importantly, her presence made everything feel official, binding, serious. "Robert, what's this about?" Thomas asked, setting his briefcase down. "Change of plans, Tom. I'm not signing anything today. Instead, I want you to document everything I'm about to say. Judge Morrison, thank you for coming on short notice." Derek had gone pale. Rachel sat perfectly still, barely breathing. I recognized that stillness. It was the kind you use when you're calculating your next move. 4 months ago, I started getting sick, I began. Fatigue, nausea, confusion, bruising. My doctor couldn't find a clear cause. Then this morning, my site foreman found rat poison in my garage and security footage of my daughter-in-law putting it there. The symptoms of bradifocum poisoning match everything I've experienced. "The tea she's been bringing me," I gestured to the mug, "is at a lab right now being tested. So are samples from my garage." "That's defamation," Rachel said. "You can't prove any of this. We'll see what the lab says. But here's what I know for certain. You've been pressuring me to retire for months. You've been asking about my will, about company succession, about what happens if I die. You've been bringing me drinks and watching to make sure I finish them. And my son," my voice cracked, but I pushed through. "My son has been asking James about what happens to the company if something happens to me." "Dad, I asked those questions because we were planning the transfer. It was professional due diligence." "Was it? Or were you wondering how long you'd have to wait for me to die?" Derek flinched like I'd hit him. I would never. You're my father. Then explain why you've been avoiding me. Why you can't look me in the eye. Why you stopped calling, stopped coming by except when Rachel made you. I was shaking now. Anger and heartbreak tangled together. Explain why my own son would stand by while someone poisons me. I didn't know, Derek said, and his voice broke. Dad, I swear to God, I didn't know. I wanted to believe him. Every instinct in me wanted to believe my son wasn't capable of patricide. But Rachel's hand was on his arm, squeezing, and when I looked at her face, I saw no denial, just cold calculation. Rachel, Thomas prompted, do you have a response to these allegations? She stood smoothly, collecting her purse. I have a response. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. This is elder abuse, making these accusations against family. Robert is clearly unwell. Derek, we're leaving. Derek stays, I said. Son, you have a choice right now. Walk out that door with her, or stay and tell me the truth. But understand, this is the choice that defines who you are. Not who you were, not who you might become. Who you are in this moment. My son looked at his wife, then at me. I saw the war in his eyes. Finally, he said, Rachel, wait outside. Derek, please, just wait outside. She left, and the temperature in the room seemed to rise. Derek collapsed into his chair, head in his hands. I didn't know about the poison. You have to believe me. But I knew something was wrong. Tell me everything. It spilled out in broken pieces. Rachel had been pushing for the early transfer for over a year. She had significant debts from failed investments she'd hidden from everyone. Her father had cut her off after she lost $200,000 in a cryptocurrency scheme. She needed access to money, real money, company money. She said you were getting old, that you'd probably have a heart attack or stroke within a few years anyway. She said we were just accelerating the inevitable, that it wasn't wrong to plan ahead. Derek's voice was hollow. I thought she meant we'd take over when you naturally retired. I thought she meant in 5 years, maybe 10. But then you started getting sick, and she kept saying it was stress, aging, that you needed to step back immediately. When did you realize she was killing me? I didn't, not consciously. But there were moments, little things that didn't add up. The way she'd insist on making your tea herself. The way she'd get angry if I suggested you see a specialist. 3 weeks ago, I found a receipt in her car for garden supplies. We don't have a garden. When I asked, she said she was helping you with your yard, but your yard service handles everything. And you didn't think to mention this to me? I was afraid. Afraid of being wrong, afraid of what it would mean if I was right. Afraid that I'd already become the kind of person who could suspect his wife of murder and not immediately go to the police. Derek looked up at me, tears on his face. I'm so sorry, Dad. I've been a coward. Judge Morrison spoke for the first time. Derek, are you willing to testify to all of this, on the record? He nodded. Whatever it takes. I'll cooperate completely. The lab results came back 3 hours later. The tea contained brodifacoum at levels high enough to cause serious harm with repeated exposure. The rat poison from my garage was the same formulation. Security footage showed Rachel entering my garage 7 different times over 3 months. More damning. My medical records showed the pattern of someone being slowly poisoned with anticoagulants. The bruising, the fatigue, the cognitive issues, it all fit. A forensic toxicology test on my blood confirmed dangerous levels of brodifacoum in my system. The police arrested Rachel that evening at her father's house in Calgary, where she'd fled immediately after leaving my office. She tried to claim I'd planted the evidence, that I was suffering from dementia and had fabricated everything. But the security footage, the lab results, the medical evidence, it was overwhelming. Her lawyer tried to work out a plea deal, but I refused. This goes to trial. The Crown prosecutor agreed attempted murder, especially of a family member through poisoning, demands full legal consequences. The trial was scheduled for January, 5 months after that Friday afternoon when James saved my life. In the meantime, I underwent chelation therapy to remove the poison from my system. My doctor said if Rachel had continued for another month, the damage might have been irreversible. Another 3 months, and I'd probably be dead. James became my interim chief operating officer. I didn't have to ask him twice. You saved my life, I told him. The least I can do is make sure you're properly compensated for it. You paid for my daughter's education, he replied. You gave me a chance when other companies saw immigrant and stopped reading my resume. I owed you truth. That's all. Truth is worth more than money. Derek moved out of the house he shared with Rachel and into a basement apartment in Edmonton. He showed up at my door every Sunday, wanting to rebuild what he'd broken. I let him in because he's my son. But trust is like fine crystal once shattered. It never goes back together quite right. We're working on it. Slowly. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Rachel's defense tried to paint me as a vindictive old man, tried to suggest Derek had manipulated evidence, tried every angle to create reasonable doubt. But the evidence was too solid, and Derek's testimony, honest, painful, damning, sealed the verdict. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. They came back with guilty on all counts: attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, assault with a deadly substance. Judge Morrison, who'd stayed involved as a character witness, later told me the delay wasn't about unclear evidence. Juries need time to accept that someone would kill their family for money, she said. It breaks something in them to believe it. They were hoping to find doubt, because doubt would mean the world makes sense. Rachel received 15 years. With good behavior, she might be out in 10. Her father hired expensive lawyers for appeals, but so far, nothing has succeeded. I don't follow it closely anymore. She's a closed chapter. What I did instead was start the Thornton Shield Foundation in late January. We focus on elder abuse prevention, financial literacy for seniors, and supporting caregivers who report abuse despite personal risk. James serves as executive director. Derek works there 3 days a week, volunteering, trying to rebuild his character through action rather than words. I sold the construction company in March to a consortium of longtime employees, including James, who bought a significant stake. I couldn't run it anymore. Too many memories, too much association with what almost happened. The money from the sale funds the foundation permanently. I moved into a smaller house in Edmonton's Westmount neighborhood, close to the foundation office. Some people ask if I'm lonely. I'm not. I have work that matters now. We've helped over 300 families recognize signs of financial abuse, connected 48 cases to legal aid, and partnered with adult protective services across Alberta. James comes by every Sunday after he visits with his daughter Emily. She graduated nursing school in April and works at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. She told me last week that she's doing her graduate thesis on identifying anticoagulant poisoning in elderly patients. Because of what happened to you, she said. Because we need to catch this earlier. Derek and I have dinner every Thursday. It's still awkward sometimes. He'll never be my confidant again, never be the person I trust, absolutely. But he's proving himself through consistency, through showing up, through doing the hard work of accountability. His therapist says that's all anyone can do after betrayal: show up and do the work. I'm 64 now, healthier than I was 6 months ago. The poison has cleared my system, though my doctor says there might be long-term effects on my liver and kidneys. I don't dwell on it. I'm alive, which is more than Rachel intended. People ask me what I learned from all this. Here's what I tell them. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I ignored months of warning signs because I wanted to believe my family loved me unconditionally. Love exists, but so does greed, and sometimes the latter wins. Value the people who risk everything to tell you truth. James could have stayed silent, protected himself, kept his head down. Instead, he chose courage over safety. That's the kind of person you want in your life. That's the kind of person you should strive to be. Document everything. In this age of technology, cameras and records aren't paranoia, they're protection. That Ring doorbell I installed because of package thieves ended up saving my life. Family isn't automatic. It's earned through action, through loyalty, through showing up in the hard moments. Derek is learning that now. He's earning his way back into being my son, not through DNA, but through dedication to being better. And finally, turn your pain into purpose. I could have spent these past months bitter, angry, fixated on revenge. Instead, I built something that helps others. The Thornton Shield Foundation won't bring back the years Rachel stole from me, won't erase Derek's betrayal, won't restore the naive trust I once had, but it means my near death has meaning beyond just survival. Last week, we got a call from a woman in Red Deer. Her son-in-law had been pressuring her to sign over her farm, bringing her special vitamins every day. She'd seen our public service announcements, recognized the warning signs, called us instead of signing. We connected her with legal aid and got police involved. They found agricultural pesticides in her medicine cabinet that she hadn't purchased. Her son-in-law is facing charges now. You saved my life, she told me on the phone, crying. No, I said. You saved your own life by paying attention and asking for help. That's all any of us can do. I was wrong about a lot of things. Wrong about retirement. Wrong about family. Wrong about who I could trust. But I was right about one thing. Legacy isn't about what you build. It's about what survives after someone tries to destroy you. I'm still here. The work continues. And every person we help is proof that evil doesn't get the last word. That's the only revenge that matters.